Hello, and welcome to your daily dose of truth to hear. I'm Melanie Keenan. Today's program is Truth Talk with Bill and Brandy. What are we going to talk about today? I'm going to tell you, it's just all over the board because there's so much going on that you, the viewer, and our panel just want to talk about. We're going to discuss the one question from Meghan Markle's interview about, is the Queen racist or not? We have different views on that. You're not going to really get to understand what we're going to say. You cannot guess it. We're also going to talk about President Biden. Is he the president? Just have a question. And we're going to talk about the wealthy people in America. Are we spoiled in America? Do we really complain about things that just aren't necessary even after a year of fear and worry and lockdowns? Because I think that would be quite ridiculous. So join us today as we talk about these issues and also introduce again a new ministry that we're going to begin called Bridge the Gap. Well, joining me today is our lovely co-host, Brandy Hunt. How are you doing, Brandy?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am doing wonderful. And Brandy, you have so many people that love you. So I want to tell them how to get in touch with you specifically. Facebook.com/ on the right track, Brandy Hunt. And she is a publisher, author, and she just has a lot of things going for her. And also joining us is Bill Kaufman. Hello, Bill.
Hello.
And you can reach out to Bill on Facebook.com/Bill N. It's the letter N, Barbara.Kaufman. And Bill has a wonderful Bible study that is up on his Facebook, and he goes live Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock.
Right.
So join Bill in that wonderful Bible study. Guys, I want to tell you what, there's just so much to talk about. I don't even know where to begin. So we're going to begin with something a little lighthearted, but also very important to actually like all the communities, to America, to England. We're going to talk about this. Meghan Markle outlines royal concerns about how dark baby Archie's skin might be. So everyone probably has already heard about Meghan Markle's interview with Oprah Winfrey. Brandy is already shaking her head. So, so Meghan Markle suggested that she was asked by an unknown person that there was concern about how dark the baby will be. She would not go into details about the conversation. She didn't give supporting and conversations about what the content was, and she didn't say who did make that comment. But there is a lot of uproar that this is one of the most racial things that have happened, and it is a racist intent. So, Brandy, I'm going to let you begin with this one. Go for it.
Well, we talked a few weeks ago that there's racism, there's colorism, and there's prejudice. And I think what our nation has just decided to do is that anybody who has a question about our skin tone, if it's black and white, they're automatically racist. I did not hear the interview, but just thinking, me, you, and Bill had a conversation, and I had a baby with a Caucasian man. It's even common when my baby was almost Bill's complexion when she was born. I looked at the top of her ears. I was like, oh, you'll get a little darker. I was racist. I was just curious as to what her skin complexion would be. Her father is actually very darker skin, darker than I am. So not because I admit I'm the one that loved him. I love dark skin. I love light skin. I love all skin. I'm single if you're ready to mingle. So just next.
Wait, let me put up how to reach her since she is single. Here's her information once again. Facebook.com on the right track, Brandy Hunt.
But even with puppies, let's just say a Labrador was with another breed. It's going to be a mixed breed, right? We're going to wonder wonder what it's going to, I didn't listen to the interview. I don't know what was said before or after. Being a writer, I have to listen to the front sentence and the back sentence in order to draw a conclusion. Remember, we talked about Dr. Seuss and how in his day, what was going on to him was not racist. So when she said, well, wonder how dark the baby gonna be, was a normal, regular conversational question, and it was not racist in any form to me.
You know, Brandy, I thought when we talked for about a minute or 30 seconds about this, that you and I were on a different frame of mind, but we're not. We're on the same frame of mind. I am, my mom is Caucasian, my dad is Black. My husband has, well, he's Black. He's just Black. He's your skin tone, and both his parents are of your skin tone. Now, there was a lot of talk in our family. Is my baby going to come out white? Or is it going to come out, dark or light skin? There was talk about, wow, I hope it's light skin because it's going to have that good hair. It's a mixed baby. Like, there's conversation when you have mixed races having children. It is part of the normal thing. Listen, I was like, oh my goodness, well, what if this baby comes out pure white? There was like, what are we going to do with that? Well, then what if it comes out really, really dark? And then what are we going to do with that? And it's not a racist thing. It's just a curiosity. I would have loved the baby no matter what color it came out to be.
Right.
And like you, my first baby, oh my goodness, she came out white as white as Bill right there. And I looked at the nurse and she said, it's going to change. It's going to change color. Don't worry. It's not where it's supposed to be. The pigment comes in later. You don't even know that as a new mom. We both loved, and all our extended family loved that child while it was as white as Bill, and even now as it's my skin complexion. It's not a racist thing. Listen, first of all, and Bill, I want to throw this question to you. I didn't know Meghan Markle was Black until she decided to date a prince. And then it became a race issue. I watched her on, I guess, Suits. I didn't know she was Black. You didn't hear Meghan Markle being Black. She never proclaimed that she was Black once she was famous. For those of you who say that I'm being colorist right now, I understand because I got reamed over the coal by this conversation by someone this week. Because my issue is this: she was never a race person before, and now all of a sudden she's a Black woman married to a white man. Why is that even an issue? Why couldn't she just been Meghan Markle marrying a prince? Bill, I'm going to throw that to you.
Well, yeah, I actually didn't know. I had no idea that she was. I didn't even pay attention to it. Here's the thing: when you think like me, I'll be honest with you, I don't care. I was in the Army. There was every race from every state. They were my friends. I played sports all my life. There was every race. I don't care. I've never cared. So it's like, unless it's really evident and you talk about it, it's not something that comes to my mind. So I never thought of her as anything other than this princess or this girl that got to marry the redheaded prince. Because, by the way, most of my family's all redheads. So they all were like, we're Team Harry. And my kids are like, we like Harry. We like him better than William because he's got red hair. And my kids got red hair. And what you said about your kids, now my kids were all born redheaded and very light skinned, but I got 5 daughters, 5 in a row, all girls. That's what I got. I love every one of them. I wouldn't trade them for anybody. But when the 5th one came, we never found out if they were a boy or girl. Never did. Not one time. And on our 5th kid, Barbara's regular OBGYN was not available. So they had another doctor deliver our 5th child. We didn't know if it was going to be a boy or girl. And whenever she was born, this doctor, it was a female doctor, wonderful lady, and she says to me, you have a beautiful daughter. And I said, again? Just like that, again? And she looked at me like she wasn't going to let me go home with the baby. I was a terrible person. And so I said, no, doctor, I said, I love her already. She's wonderful. But this is my 5th child in a row. We've never checked. And they're all girls. This is the 5th one. I said, you're a doctor. You took higher math. What's the probability of that? Which made her laugh.
That equation, because that comparison, it is so like not a big deal. You do want to know, like, is the child going to have red hair? Is it going to be a girl or a boy this time? Is what the skin color is going to be when you have mixed races? Those are things that people talk about.
Yeah.
I think it's being blown out of proportion. Now, whether or not Meghan Markle, now we can't, let me just say this. We cannot take away from Meghan Markle's experience. If she honestly felt intimidated or unwanted, or the child unwanted because of the comments, that is something we cannot take away from. That is something that she needs to get help with.
If you listen to some of her statements, Melanie, she actually went so far as to say that she felt, like she didn't want to live.
Right.
And I'm a cop, and I deal with people who don't want to live all the time, and their lives completely fallen apart. And often it has. I mean, when you hear their story as they're talking to you about their suicidal tendencies, because I've been on many calls with suicidal people, and when you hear their life story, sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I totally get it. I completely get it. Everything you've ever tried hasn't worked. You're complete, you failed in everything. Your children won't talk to you. You've been divorced 3 times. 2 businesses are in bankruptcy, and and the prison and the IRS is going to throw you in jail, all in one life. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's pretty bad. But when the richest people in the world are talking about what victims they are, which happened the other day on the television episode, I go, there's got to be something deeper than this, because that doesn't make any sense.
I want to say something about that. And on the outside, it looks like that. But even if you're wealthy, born into royalty or whatever, you are still a human being with feelings and emotions, and you experience life in a way that is only your way to experience it. And so here's Meghan Markle, for an example, famous, wealthy. She's got everything going for her here in America. She believes she's going to marry this prince, be a princess, go to the palace. It's going to be just another level up for her. And in our eyes, yeah, well, you got the Cinderella story. But in her eyes, she went from freedom to popularity to expressing herself to, okay, this is how you're going to live. And in her interpretation, it was like being put into a square box. So yes, she should. We can say, oh, you should have been thankful for that. But the way that you're interpreting it. So for someone like Meghan Markle or anybody else, like, I don't think the color comment was it. It was just the needle in the haystack. I think it was the whole transition of all of it. And then on top of that, she's having a baby. It should be joyous. And here's a comment about her race. The media and everybody's already been all over her about her race for years. It was just one more pile on top of her. So for her, it's like one more thing. I can't handle it anymore. But for us looking on, it's like, it's just a comment. What I think is wrong, and then I'm going to give it back to you, Bill. What I think is wrong is the media agreeing with her and saying, yeah, this is racist, and blowing it out of proportion and making them think. They could say, listen, it's right for Meghan. I'm sorry she felt that way based on everything she was living through. But this is a normal conversation for most biracial families.
Right.
Go ahead, Bill.
And by the way, I wasn't downplaying somebody's depression. I was bringing up the depression as something that I was more concerned with than the statements. Mm-hmm. I was like, wow, really, if you feel that way, that's the problem right there. I mean, in my mind, because there may be a lot of people that talk bad about you. I've been called a lot of bad names over my career. That's part of life. Okay. I mean, I got pretty thick skin. Maybe she doesn't. Okay. That bothered her. My point was, if she really felt that way, when the life is going as good as it is, that's a problem. Because even though there's bumps in the road for rich people, there are terrible bumps in the road for rich people, I would imagine. I've never been one of them. But the fact of the matter is everybody's got problems. Poor, rich, good looking, bad looking. I actually, this is way back when I was in my early 20s, but I dated a beautiful girl who asked me and we were both Christians. I was a brand new believer. And she asked me on our first date what I would change about myself if I could. And I said, I probably care a little bit too much about looks on a woman. I'd like to more concern myself with her spirit and not concern myself with her physical appearance, but I've not really been able to do that yet. And I was just, she asked me, so I told her that. You know how she took that? I didn't find this out for a few months. We dated for a while. She took that as though I said I asked her out because I thought she was ugly.
Oh.
Because you were
And
working
she-
on challenges.
Yeah, that's what she told me that a few months later, because she was beautiful, by the way. She was really, really pretty girl. And no one thought she wasn't except for herself. And I couldn't understand that. And by the way, I asked her out because she was gorgeous, not the other way around. She asked me that question, and then every time I told her how good she looked, she would like get upset about it. And I didn't know why. And one day she told me why, because no, you don't believe that. You asked me out because you thought I was ugly. So you would get over your problem. I'm like, what are you talking about? But that was real to her. That it wasn't true, but it was real to her.
All right, so Brandy, your final word on this topic.
So we were having a family gathering one time, and it was probably 10 people in the house, maybe 15. And the stove caught on fire, like a little, what I would consider like a little brush fire. However, the person who was standing in front of the oven, who was responsible to put out the fire, was screaming. I mean, just, oh my God, the stove is on fire. What am I going to do? And my mom, she goes, that ain't nothing. Why are you screaming? And I was like, and so let me explain. My mom's a cook. She's also the person who was at the stove was probably in her late 20s, just became a new mom. My mom is almost 60. She's also a cook, and she has 3 grown children. So the perspective of this brush fire was different for both of these people based on what they had gone through in their lifetime. And that's what we do to people. We look at the fact that, and my mom, she would like, she had this straight face. She was like, why are you screaming? Just put out the fire and keep going. And I'm like, Mom, you can't just make her feel like she's freaking out over nothing. And she was like, but she is. It's just a small breath. And I said, she doesn't know that yet. And so I said, why don't you just go over and help her put the fire out? You talking junk. Like, I mean, she was talking just a lot. I was like, Mom, just go help her put the fire out. And so she turned around and she said, okay, do these 3 things and the fire will go out. Fire was put out. But first she had to express how much she didn't have to panic because it was nothing. And so that's what we do to people, because we've been through, like I've been through a lot. When somebody complains to me, I hear Charlie Brown's mama. I'll be like, give me something else. Give me something else. I know my child probably hates it because she's 20 with no child, no real bills, and she complains. And I'll be like, give me something else, because that's not big. But I have to remember that moment where at her age, she hasn't experienced a lot of pain where she can relate to it. And I think with the wealthy people complaining, they have different problems than we have. I don't have any $100,000 problems. I don't have a mansion to take care of. I don't have a car that costs $90,000, $100,000 to go get fixed. I don't have those problems. So the pandemic, to me, my struggles are going to be different than somebody running a Fortune 500 company trying to keep everybody employed. So those kinds of complaints, I don't have those. So I can't look at them and say, well, you got plenty of money, because I don't know what plenty of money looks like to them. I don't know but anytime we're uncomfortable, it's going to become a complaint. Wherever you are, discomfort creates some kind of reaction of complaint. Oh, woe is me. And we are spoiled. To the question of, are we spoiled in America? I believe so.
You know, we had to wrap this conversation up, but I want to say this. A lot of times people say, oh, my problems aren't anything compared to yours. But this is the thing. In reality, everybody's problems are equally problematic to them. So it might take me I don't even want to say anything negative about my life because I don't want to bring that upon me. But it might take me, I might be like your mom, the one with the fire in the kitchen. That doesn't faze me. It might take something more drastic to get me going. But the fact that whatever takes me getting stressed out and worried and fearful, and then whatever level it takes another person to get the same way, It's based on our life experiences. It's based on our self-image. It's based on what we see as our life as a whole. And we can't take that or compare it one to another. We just need to say, okay, I understand where you're coming from. See it from the other person's point of view, and then try to be
Right.
a support. Try to give them the word of God, to give them prayer, to give them a support, to say, okay, that's where you are. Doesn't matter what I think about it. If that's where you are, let me address you, not me. And if we can do that, and if Oprah did that, if she said, hey, girl, I get you were so tired of all of this coming at you, your life changed, it wasn't what you thought. And then on top of this, you're supposed to be happy. And someone says, hey, what's the color of your kid? Yeah, I would take it the wrong way. I would be hurt and insulted. But maybe it's this: if Oprah did her job as a person with humanity and compassion, she wouldn't have stoked the fire or left it like that. And that's my problem. That is my problem.
People that are that make a living, and I don't know Oprah at all. She's super famous and loved by most every person I know. But they've made a living off of a little controversy. So I don't know if when she heard that saying, when she heard it, she said, oh, I wish you wouldn't have said that. I don't know that, and I don't know that she did say this, but I might be thinking that's going to bring a lot of ratings, because that's all people have been talking about for a whole week. So, and I'm not putting her individually. I'm talking about people who live in the public eye. They, that live for that, and all that kind of stuff. But I just want to finish off with this one thing I thought of whenever Brandy was talking.
This conversation 4 times.
I know. But I thought of this when Brandy was talking. In the movie Bruce Almighty, which is a silly movie, but God gives Jim Carrey the chance to Bruce to be God for a day. And all these prayers start coming into him, and he can't sort them out. He's like, why is this all happening? Do you know that every person, and you do know it because we're all just people, every person prays to God. Atheists pray to God whenever something bad happens. When something's terrible, imminent, they ask for God's help. Every human does. There is no one that doesn't. And therefore, every person, when they're feeling this stress, yells out to God. And he, unlike Bruce Almighty, God Almighty can hear every one of those prayers. And I don't know how he can do that, but he has no problem with it. And he knows that Meghan and Harry and Charles and Queen Elizabeth, they all got problems just like everybody else, different problems, but they all got them. And every one of those people pray to God too. They do. And maybe just quietly so no one else knows, but they do.
Listen, if there was a racial issue in the Queen's palace family line, they would have never permitted them to get married. Plain and simple. They knew Meghan was of a mixed descent, and they knew they were going to have babies. So if they didn't want a black biracial child in the family line, they would not have permitted them to be married. That is something that the Queen had authority to stop before it even began. So this is all nonsense if people just think about the fact this is not what it appears to be. It is a good news story, and that's basically what it is. What we need to do is step back and pray for Meghan, as she did say she was suicidal, as she did say she was struggling enough that her husband felt the need to leave his family. People don't leave their families. I don't care what, wealthy or not, that people don't leave their families and say, it's because my wife was so stressed out, I had to hear her cry and get her out of there. That's the issue. That's what we need to be doing, is praying for the healing and reconciliation of a family and nothing else. But let me segue, because we're talking about seeing people that's in the public eye that is hurting, and what are we doing? We're just making a spectacle out of it by talking about it and expecting the worst. But I want to talk about our President Joe Biden. I want to actually talk about it with you guys, because I am just, every time I see him at a podium or I see him trying to speak or answer questions, my heart just drops for this guy. because he's a man that served our country and served it well. It doesn't matter if you agree with him or not. He served our country and he served it well to the best of what he knew he was going to do or wanted to do. Now, was he right on everything? Maybe not. Is there scandal behind him? Of course. But he did what he served. How is anyone on the Democratic Party or even his family allowing him to be up there in a state of what I see as a dementia state? He has all the eye contact, the words, the apologizing for saying something out of turn, the emptiness in his eyes. I've worked with Alzheimer patients for 3 years. I worked in a nursing home and a living facility. He has so many signs that he is on the onset of dementia of whatever type you want to call it. I don't have the professional degree to say that, but I'm telling you just my observation from my experiences. Where is anybody saying this man should be able to go somewhere and retire? Just using him as a face, as a name. I get they use him to get into the White House, but we all know that Kamala Harris is the one that people voted in. That's just the truth. She's already taking heads of state calls, which vice presidents don't do. President Biden has yet to make a news conference. Why are we allowing this in our country? My heart feels for him. He should be retiring, not being made into some caricature where everybody in the public, all the news medias are making fun of him. They're mocking him. They're scrutinizing him. Come on. Like, this just really bothers me as a human to a human. Whoever wants to take that.
There's been the whole time there was a lot of people saying, she got on the ticket because the people in the Democratic Party wanted her to be president. And she didn't get any votes when she was running from the populists. Now, I think I thought I picked her to be the front runner first because of her record in law enforcement. But when she started running, she tried to go left of AOC in her speeches, and she didn't get any traction. Well, I thought she should have run as a moderate, and she would have won handily, I thought. But she didn't do it. She didn't come and talk to me. I could have been her campaign manager. But I think that everybody knows that Joe's have problems. That's not a real big mystery. In fact, he did better in the debates, and most people were surprised how good he did because he seems to come out of it, for a little bit, but then he goes back in. But that's his age. That's the way it is. And you're right. He has served the country. In fact, that's all he's done. He's only been a politician. He became a politician in his 20s. He's still a politician. And that's his whole job. That's the only career he's ever had. Well, now he's top of that job. He's the president. And I give him respect for the position that he holds. But I think it's pretty obvious what the plan was and still is, and I think that we're going to end this 4 years with President Harris. And, that's what I think. And I could be totally wrong. I have no crystal ball, man. I'm not a prophet of God. So, but when that happens, I don't know. I really don't. And it's kind of rough. And I agree with you. When you see it, it is pretty rough.
You already had the plan. I do believe there was always a plan for Kamala Harris to take over. All right, do it already, because this guy is suffering and it's not okay. If we did this to any other human being, paraded them around, let him look like this, let him talk like this, and didn't seek help. If it was me and you, if it was my grandpa who was doing this, people in the stores would call social services and say, it's neglect, it's elder abuse to do this. Why is no one stopping us from misusing our president? And, doesn't matter what you believe politically, it's a human being that is being paraded around in one of his worst days. He should have ended his career on top, but in good light, not like this. Brandy?
So my first question would be, whenever has our country cared about compassion? And secondly, what kind of uproar would have the world, not the world, but the United States be in not just a woman of color, but putting a woman in the White House directly after 700 white men have been the president, and then you put a woman in there directly, it has to happen by death. It cannot happen on purpose. So of course they're going to run the workhorse so that they can go. Not, I pray that he doesn't. I pray he lives to 130. That's how
Right.
many. But the Lord only promises 80 good years. So if you live past that, you're doing good. So but it has to happen by death. It can't happen on purpose because that's not the pattern of the United States. We've had 70 some odd white males.
45.
45. Okay. 45 white males. And then you stick a woman of color in there.
Well,
It's not the United
if you
States.
Barack Obama considered a man of color, then it would be 44 and then 1. So, I mean, I'm
44
just trying to be accurate historically.
outside. So in my
But no
small,
female,
not
correct.
knowing politics opinion, if the United States stuck a woman, don't even matter her color, in the White House, there will be a huge uproar. But if she gets in there because she was the president, he's who she chose, then we got to deal with it. But only till the term is over. Then there'll be another presidency.
Right.
So they're holding on to the fact that, but we can still push him up there and let you guys be okay with the fact that a Caucasian white male is still here to support the people who have to have that racist, colorist, prejudiceness that goes forward, that have to have a white male as your representation. We can't just stick the woman of color in there. We got ease. It's got to ease in there because it's going to happen.
You know, Brandy, I wasn't expecting this conversation to take the turn I'm about to say, but it's here. And it's just wrong. What you're saying is that America knows as a whole that Kamala Harris is running the White House. We know that. That's just obvious because President Biden, from what we see, cannot be doing the work of a president. We know that she is making calls to heads of state. And so these things are, we're knowing about this. But what you're saying is we're okay with knowing, intellectually knowing that she's running things, but we need to see the white male figure on the screen. We need to have the picture, the imagery that we are doing things the way we normally do. You would think we're further than that in America.
I just want to say, I actually think that out of every person I personally talk about politics with, which is quite a few, I don't know anybody that I'm okay, I'm going to go with the conservative ones because I talk to everybody. But out of the conservative ones, they have no problem with a woman or a woman of color being a president. Most of them wanted Condoleezza Rice to run really bad. You know, there's quite a few people that are females that they want to run. I hear it all the time. You know, they name names, Nikki Haley and stuff. So it's not that. It's, I think personally, I don't want somebody that campaigned like Kamala Harris to run the country.
Yeah, for me.
Not that she's a woman or a woman of color, because once again, there are plenty of women of color that I would be like, I'll vote for you for president, and over Joe Biden or anybody else really, because I don't care that they're male or white or any color. I more care what they're pushing politically.
For those that are watching, comment. Let us know. Are you ready for a African American woman or a woman president? Would it make a difference if Biden wasn't on the ticket and if it was just Kamala Harris as president? I want to know what you guys think because I see it from both sides of the fence. I see where there are people who are just like, look, it's all about the politics, what they believe in, what they went for, their history. Like that's where it is for me as well. But at the same time, I also can see from the Black point of view, America ain't ready for no black people up in the White House running things, especially a woman. They barely were ready for Obama, and he did it. But I'm going to tell you, we weren't ready for it. It was an issue all the time. The whole time he was president, it was an issue. And so, as much as I would love to think that there was a lot of people that outweighed that viewpoint and believe like you do, Bill, I don't see it. There's too many issues about race right now. There's so many, everything's about race. Everything is so political and so crazy that you can't even wonder what color your baby's going to be if you're married to a
But
mixed
that's
child. It's just
see, that's what I'm
insane.
talking. But that's what I'm saying there is that's the problem. Most people I know, I'm just talking about people I know. I live in California. We have a lot of mixed relationships here, a lot. They go to our church. They're everywhere around me. Nobody even know. I don't know. My daughter's dating a Hispanic man. That his family is wonderful. He's okay too. I'm just kidding. He's a great guy. And but he's dating my daughter, and they come over all the time. We're always together. We go do things together. I don't care, and
Let me
neither
ask you
does
this.
anybody else I hang out with. I'm just telling you, nobody's ever brought it up to me. Like, hey, what's going on here? Never said
I
one
want
word
to
about it.
ask you a question, Bill. Does he speak Spanish?
Yes.
Is there going to be a conversation when they have children? What language they're going to speak? Was their main language
No,
Spanish?
no, it'll be English because he speaks English. He was born in the United States. His parents were not.
Okay.
His mother doesn't speak English. His father does. So he speaks both languages. I want my grandchildren to speak both languages. I hope that they speak both languages.
But see, the point in that is there's a conversation
Mhm.
because you have mixed languages. You're bilingual in this family now, and you have a grandmother who doesn't speak English. You have grandparents who aren't fluent in Spanish. So there's a conversation that's going to have to be had. What age do you introduce Spanish? Is it upon birth and you just start speaking both languages at the same time and the child picks it up at the same time? Because children can do that. Like if you start speaking languages around a child, they'll just pick up 5 languages at a time. But that's a conversation that's going to be had. That's not racist. It's not that's not a prejudice. It's just
Right.
being aware. I think if we start doing what society is telling us to do, which is don't, like you said last week, Bill, or 2 weeks ago, don't look at color, don't look at language, don't look at race, don't look at height, don't look at anything. We're just blank people. We're going to be afraid to say anything that someone else can take out of context or misconstrue it. So I can't ask you, hey, what language does somebody speak? I can't do that
Right.
anymore. We can't describe someone. I described someone. We were watching a TV show, a game show, and there was black contestants, I guess African American contestants is the correct thing to say. There was white contestants. There was everybody in the room was trying not to say, "Oh, I think it's the black lady." I think it's the one with the red shirt. Come on, you know you want to say, "I think it's the black lady," but everybody's afraid to say, "Oh, I think it's the Caucasian guy," or "I think it's the guy who's country." No one wants to point out any attributes of a person anymore because they're afraid people in the room are going to be offended or think you're biased or racist. And I think it's just insane.
Right.
I think it's insane if there's only one black person in the room, and you're trying to say, "Hey, that lady over there." Well, which one? Well, that one. Well, with the black one. Why is that wrong? Why is that wrong? It's like we got to be ashamed of being black. Like if someone says, the girl over there, the light skinned girl, I'm gonna be like, yeah, that's me. I'm not offended at that. I'm light skinned. It's just the truth. You know?
Well, and I remember bringing that up in the form of a BOL, be on the lookout for a crime that had just been committed. We get that all the time over the radio. Hey, an armed robbery just happened. The suspect is white male, 5'10", 180 pounds, brown hair, wearing a black jacket, driving a white SUV, whatever. they put all that information in so the cops can find the guy.
Yep.
If they can't do that, we had a burglary, or we had an armed robbery at this address. Go get him. Well, what does he look like? Well, I can't tell you. How tall is he? Can't tell you. What kind of clothes do you wear? Well, he's got a brown jacket on or a black jacket. Okay, thank you. That's all I get. That's crazy. That's crazy.
To be known as. So that's what we should say. Well,
what's that, Randy?
As a male, because how are we? I did the same thing at a restaurant. I was like, the lady said she had just got engaged, and I said, well, and she said we're going on our honeymoon, and and at the end I said, well, I hope you and your husband, is it a husband or a wife? Because that's new. Like it's.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be disrespectful, and she was like, oh, it's a husband, and I said, oh, okay. Hope you and your husband have a great honeymoon. If it would have been, my sentence was still going to be the same, but I didn't want to come across as offensive. But you find yourself trying to catch yourself and fix the sentence so that you don't come across, as offensive. But where I came from, I'm looking for a husband. That's just not my lifestyle, but I love everybody. But as soon as I said, you and your husband, my brain said, nope. You can't just say it like that anymore. It's going to be difficult.
All right, let me ask this. This is a hard question. And let me ask this. We have to wrap this conversation up, but when is it, like you just said, you automatically want to go with husband and wife. That's what you believe. That's your faith, right? That's what the Bible says. But you are being trained to rethink and not speak what you believe in to cater to this new idea that the world has said is okay. And we lost Bill, but maybe he'll be able to come back on before we leave. This is the thing. When is it okay for us? How much will we water down our Christianity, the Bible, our faith, in trying to please other people? Because, is that watering down your faith by acknowledging husband and wife, or husband and husband, or wife and wife? Because is that agreeing with something that God clearly says is not something we should do? Just like if someone was to say, hey, I just robbed this store and got all this money, would you take part in that money because he thought it was okay to rob it?
Well, I'll go to the woman at the well. When Jesus said, go find your husband. Oh, wait a minute. You don't just have one husband. You have 5. And that was against, you're supposed to have one husband. So I guess to answer your question, it doesn't take away from me to acknowledge you, because I do also believe that God could use that very moment to minister to someone. And if they found offense in me, he's not going to be able to use me if they put that wall up. So if I'm going to that restaurant often and I'm seeing that person, who may be in an alternative lifestyle, and yes, I've acknowledged, hey, how are you? How's your girlfriend? How's your husband? If it's a man, how is your family? And I skip over what most Christians would find fault in. I'm not going to talk to her because she has a wife and she's a girl. I believe that God will still use us even in the midst of what's indifferent to us. Now, if she would have stood there and said, well, yeah, it's a wife, what is it to you? Then I would have said, I was raised that, this is, and it would have been a conversation, but still, I believe that God does want us to walk in love.
Well, no, I agree with that. I do agree with that. But there's so much that we are just willing changing about us. And as Christians, there has to be a point where we stand on the truth of the word of God. And I agree. If someone said, I'm going to acknowledge whatever they believe in their heart that they are or that they do, it's not me to judge them or to ridicule them or distance myself from people because of the way they are. I would hate for people to look at my life or something in my life that is not right with God and judge me by that and say, I can't be with you because of you do this. I would hate that to happen in my life. So I would not do that either. But there is a time that I think is now that we must decide to not cater to the political views and not cater to what the perception might be, that we speak truth in love, that we look out for each other, that we understand people from the other side of the fence and say, you know what, I might not get why you're saying these things, but I want to just be there the way you need me to be. Because this world right now is all about just, hey, political views, special interest views, and do it my way or do it none at all. And I think we need to say, no, I'm not going to, just because everyone's talking that everybody's racist, I'm not going to be racist. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to keep the conversation going. I'm going to stop it because it makes no sense. If
Yeah.
someone talks to me about Meghan Markle after this conversation, I'm going to be like, you know what? Makes no sense. I'm not getting into that.
Right.
There's things that are in the media that I think, oh, I should bring that up on Truth Talk. But then it's like, no, don't keep the propaganda going. Shut it down. You know it's not truthful. You know it has no benefit to society. And I think we as Christians need to let integrity speak for ourselves. We need to be who God wants us to be, say the things we're led to say in truth and in spirit and in love, but let integrity stand for us. So if I'm the way I'm supposed to be and you have offense at me, I hope you get to know me enough or know my past to know I wouldn't be the way you're saying. And I think we need to look at that with individuals in the media, in the spotlight, just like the Queen. If you look at the Queen's history, you know she's not racist, period. But we don't look at that in today's society. We want to hear it and we want to just jump the gun and forget about integrity. So I pray, and we'll just let Bill right back. I pray that our integrity does speak for ourselves and we look at other people's integrity and stop reiterating the propaganda of hate and divisiveness in this country. That is my final word. Thank you, Bill, for coming back. I do hope everybody is enjoying the programs that we bring. Please like and share and subscribe to our channel so we can get this word out to more people. And we got so much more to talk about, but we're out of time today. So thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget the daily dose of truth to hear each day at 2 p.m. And just on a side note, I want to just apologize. We have had so many hiccups with our programs lately that we have had to re-air programs or miss some days, but we are still here, up and running, and getting everything worked out. So thank you for persevering with us. Bill, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry you got cut off at the end, but thank you so much. And Brandy, I love your shirt. I want one. I have a purse that looks just like that. But thank you also, Brandy, for joining us today. Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.